Today on the Ave Podcast, Super Bowl week is here. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Brady, Evans, Godwin, Leonard, Gronk, AB, Andy Reid, Bruce Arians, The Weeknd. Well, not Saturday or Sunday, but the weekend, the actual weekend, the artist. He's going to be performing the halftime show, the biggest sporting event of the year during COVID. What a time to be alive, man. Anyways, I bring back South Shore family member Roger Callender as we make out our final pick on the big game, decide on the most important matchups, if there's more pressure on Mahomes or Brady, plus we make our selections on the NFL awards. We have to get into this Matthew Stafford trade. Overrated. South Shore Ave is available wherever you listen to your podcasts, of course. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or I should say Google Podcasts, not Google Play anymore because that's now defunct. So Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Alexa is just some of the places you can catch the show. Listen, rate, review, and subscribe to all of the shows. Click on all those 5 stars, and make sure you link and subscribe to the South Shore Ave YouTube channel. The new episode of The Stoop will be out on February 15th, so make sure you lock into that. And, of course, to check out some of my past episodes, go ahead and check out SouthShoreAve.com to catch the rest of my catalog. Once again, that's SouthShoreAve.com. It's the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Ave Radio. Here we go.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Ave Radio.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast. How you doing today on the Super Bowl week, sir?
I am doing quite well, man. I cannot wait. I am anticipating an amazing Super Bowl, and I can't wait for it to start, man. I'm telling you, this week cannot go by quick enough for me.
I'm surprised you didn't try to book your ticket to Tampa, then come back and face the quarantine charges. I figured it'd be worth it for you.
You know what? I've always told myself at least once in my lifetime, I will go to a Super Bowl. It just has to be under the perfect conditions. I still haven't quite figured out what the perfect conditions are. And $8,000, $8,000 to $10,000 is a little steep to play for a ticket. Mm-hmm. But shit, man, one day I'm gonna do it, guy. I'm telling you.
I mean, the people that are getting a chance to go to the game this year, I mean, you got a lot of leg room now. Holy smokes.
It's true.
What is it, like 25%? Or is it 25 or 30% of the stadium they're filling?
I think it's 25% capacity. And
okay.
From what I understand, the majority of them are going to be first responders.
Yeah, I think like 7,500 of them.
Yeah.
First responders who've taken the vaccine, so.
Exactly. Which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's just pure PR, which I get, but I mean...
Complete PR.
Complete PR, 100%. But I get it. I mean, it's goodwill, and there's nothing wrong with goodwill, Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that this is a home game for Tampa. I mean, unfortunately, it had to happen this year where they couldn't really take the true benefits of having a full stadium, sure. Or maybe like half the fans out of like a 70,000 capacity stadium full of like Tampa Bay fans. But, it is what it is. Even those 25% capacity, again, I mean, we discussed this on and offline, but like just the fact that they're able to sleep in their own beds.
Absolutely, that's huge.
Pull up to the stadium with their own cars, like it's just like the same routine. It's got to be a beautiful feeling.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Home field advantage is a real thing, man. I mean, the fact that you could sit at home and just pick up and go to the game—that's massive. That's huge. You're not sleeping in a hotel room. You're in front of your home crowd. One thing I do find entertaining is the fact that the Chiefs. They complained about the cannons. So they don't want the cannons to go off every time Tampa scores a touchdown.
Being that it's supposed to be technically a neutral site game, right?
Exactly. So the NFL actually stepped in and said, no cannons. You can fire the cannons when the team comes out on the field, but you can't fire it during the actual game itself.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's interesting, man. It's things that you would never think of, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Before we even get into our Super Bowl discussion and everything else, let's talk about this Matt Stafford trade that happened over the past weekend. Matt Stafford got traded to the Rams in exchange for Aaron Goff, a third-round pick and 2 second-round picks in 2022 and 2023.
No, 2 first-round picks. It's 2 first-round picks, a third, and Goff.
No, that's what I just said.
You said 2 seconds. You said 2
seconds.
seconds.
Did I say 2 seconds? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I meant 2 first-round picks in 2022 and 2023, as well as a third-round pick, I believe, this year, right?
Yep, that's correct.
That's correct. This year. What are your thoughts on this trade?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you, because I feel the same way. I know everybody's going crazy, and I'm just kind of like,
yeah. It seems like a lot to give up for Matthew Stafford. I mean, he is a third. He's 33 years old.
Yeah.
He does have a really good arm. I'll give him that. He's pretty consistent. Every year he's over 4,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns, averaging about 10 to 12 interceptions. Is he an upgrade of Goff? Yes. Is he the one that's going to lead them to a Super Bowl? I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's definitely a better position for him to be in because he has more weapons. I mean, now he has Woods, Cooper Kupp. He has Everett, and he has Akers, the new running back.
Yeah, he's got a good running game.
Yeah, so they have good weapons, definitely. I mean,
great defense.
They have a fantastic defense, top-tier defense, and I suspect that's the reason why they're kind of throwing all their chips in on the table in order to try and get him. So, I mean, I don't really have a big problem with that. Like, I'm all about if they're trying to win now, then, if you're willing to sell the house, go ahead, sell the house and bet big. The only problem is if this doesn't work out, you're out 2 first-round draft picks, a third draft pick, and you're locked into a quarterback for at least the next 2-3 years. So,
yep. I mean, the good thing is you don't have to renegotiate his contract. Sure. I think I read today that he's made over. I think he's made $219 million. So money's not his issue at this point. I think he just wants to play on a contending team. Have a chance to win. I think that's like his biggest thing, which at this stage I understand. First of all, the Detroit Lions, man, like when are they ever going to get it together in our lifetime?
I don't think so, man. I'm telling you, they're just one of those teams that just has piss poor management from the top down. And I don't care who the coach is on that team, they're never, unfortunately, when you don't have the support from the top, you're not going to be successful. You're not.
I mean, Roger, I know you've been watching football since you were I've been watching football since I was like 6-7 years old. And the Detroit Lions have always been either shaky or shitty. They've never been great. Other than that one year where I think they made it to the conference final. It was like the early 90s when Barry Sanders was there. Other than that one year, they've always been like super shaky. They wasted Barry Sanders' prime. They wasted Megatron's prime, Calvin Johnson's prime.
Absolutely.
And they basically wasted. I mean, Matthew Stafford. I'm not saying he's an elite QB, but either way, they still wasted his years.
I agree completely.
So it's like the fact that they're starting over again. You're like, good God, man! Like, when do you guys just find when is it going to be a time where they just finally go on a run where like 3-4 years, 5 years, they're just a really good team or a good playoff team and just change it up, man. My God, like I really can't remember a time where they were like elite. It's never happened.
You know what? There's honestly, Calvin, regardless of how many draft picks these teams get, I find with Detroit has a very unique issue. And the issue is that every year, they're not as terrible as the worst teams, but they're not as good as the good teams.
Yeah.
So they always fall in that middle where they don't get, they get maybe the 16th, 17th round draft picks, but they're not good enough. They're not good enough to actually be able to, make the playoffs and so on. But they're not bad enough to actually get a top player to actually change the franchise.
Right.
So it's like they're just one of those teams that's just always in the middle. Regardless, they're always in the middle. Half the time they're in a losing season. They have a losing season. They're under 500, but they can never rise above that. I mean, I don't blame Matthew Stafford for leaving town. I'd want to leave town too. Look at all the players that have retired before their time while they played for Detroit. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. Like, these are two players that were like top-ranked players, and they would rather retire than stay with this team. And this has happened over years. This has happened over decades. Like, I mean, this is not something that's like they haven't sucked for just the past 5 years. They've literally sucked for like the past 2 to 3 decades.
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
And when they retired too, those two players specifically, when they retired, like they didn't even like hint at coming back. It's like they retired. They're just like just fuck football. Just forget it all. Just forget it. Like
absolutely, it just blows my mind. Like, how dysfunctional of a team would you have to be that the actual players would, instead of making $20 million, for instance, Megatron, instead of making $15-16 million a year, he would rather retire than keep playing for your team
and never come back. I know.
Never come back. And there was physically, I can't remember. Like, I remember a few injuries here and there, but it's not like he went out because he was injured or anything like that. He wasn't a Gronkowski who retired after the third back surgery or anything along those lines. And even Gronk came back, but it wasn't even like that with him. Like, he was in good shape when he retired.
Yeah. I mean, it's football, so he had his injuries, but it's
of course.
But with that said, yeah, like it wasn't anything where like he couldn't come back from. Like, he was still at the top of his game when he left.
He was, but that's Detroit, man. There's some teams that are just like that. You just get the impression they'll never rise up. No. There's always something that's going to be holding them back. Whether it's the management hiring shitty coaches, or just I don't know,
or shitty GMs, bad drafting, just it's always
the
something.
whole culture. The whole culture of Detroit is just like they're just a bunch of losers. It's terrible, man. I hate to say it, but it's just a losing culture. And once you have a losing culture, like look at Kenny Galladay.
Yeah,
this guy's a fantastic wide receiver. This guy's not going to renew his contract this year. He wants out. He's as close to a top wide receiver that they've had since Megatron.
Right.
And this guy's like, I want out. And he's been like that for the past year or 2 years.
Yeah, because it's like they're in the league obviously, but it's a second-rate organization at this point. It's just like I said, it's either bad drafting, bad management, bad coaching, bad luck, injuries, just whatever it is. It's just I don't know, man. It's like they that whole team's got to bathe in seawater, like just take a sea bath and call it a day, man. Just start all over. But
absolutely.
But when that coach is so funny because when that coach Dan Campbell when he came on that press conference, I don't know if you heard that press conference. He's talking about we're gonna eat kneecaps, come back and and get on the ground and eat your feet. And and then we're gonna be so intense, and even if you fall back, we're gonna take a rib from you. It's like when you hear all this stuff, you're just like, oh my god, just get me the hell out of here, man.
Okay, yeah. Before you start talking trash, how about you win a few games? Like seriously, man. Come on, man. Come on.
But with the Rams, though, it's I like Stafford. Like Stafford he's solid. Like he's above average, and I agree he's better than Goff. But he doesn't. I totally agree with you, Roger, because when I saw the trade, I was just kind of like the two things I said was like, man, if you're in that division, if you're Seattle, even if you're San Francisco, even with Garoppolo, I'm not scared that Stafford is coming to the to the division. Like that, like that's number one, and then number two, I'm kind of like they got all that for Stafford. What the hell are they gonna get for Deshaun Watson?
That's what I'm saying. They gave up 2 first rounds, a third round, and their starting quarterback from Matthew Stafford. Like, what is it going to take to get Deshaun Watson? Is it going to be 3 first round picks? Supposedly, I heard that they're looking for 3 first rounds, 3 first round picks, 2 third rounds, and 2 defensive players or something like that. 2 young defensive players or something along those lines.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and that's something like if you're Watson, it's like you don't know how to feel about that because you got a no trade clause, which is amazing in the NFL. But at the same time, you're kind of like, man, am I gonna leave? Because who's gonna like pony up and gift you like what you're saying is correct? Like who's giving up all that for him? Like I'm sure there's gonna be a team that's gonna do it. But
for sure.
And I'm not saying he's not worth it. He's totally worth it. But it's a lot. You know what I mean? Like so, it just means like you kind of wish like his trade happened first before Stafford. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely.
Because now it's like, man, I got to be here. Now it's going to take some time.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I agree. The one thing is for sure though, he does not want to play for that team. He's asked for a trade. He's disconnected himself from the team. He took all inferences of the Houston Texans away off of his social media. Like he literally is checked out. He's done.
Yeah,
he's done. I think management would be crazy to not realize that at this point your best bet is to try and get as much as you can for him. Don't be ridiculous, because if you be ridiculous, then most likely you won't have Deshaun Watson, and you won't have anything else to show for it either. You know.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of things with that. The Texans really try to make it up, and they got him a black coach. I mean, which is good, you know, because when you read, I think it's David Dully, I think his name is. But when you read his history of of his career, like this is a long time coach. He's 65 years old. Like this isn't a young guy. He's been in the coaching game for 40. I think it was like 43 years. So this isn't somebody that's like he's not like a McVay or or Kyle Shanahan, where like these guys are younger. Like this is a 65-year-old coach. Sorry, his name is David Culley, not Dully, Culley. But like it's a great opportunity for him. He finally, after all those years, finally gets his first head coaching job. The one thing I read too is that what's crazy is that like the veterans on that team is like giving Deshaun their blessing to go. Like they're telling him like, we agree, bounce now, like leave now.
AJ Watt is basically telling him to go. He's like, he apologized and he said he feels bad because he felt that the team wasted all of Deshaun Watson's 2 years off of Deshaun Watson's career or something like that.
Yeah,
it was something ridiculous like that. Like, I mean, that goes to show you what that culture is about. What the whole culture of that team is about. Yeah, he's just done, and I don't blame him. No. It's too little, too late. You had your opportunity. You could have brought him. You could have brought him in. You could have, and it's not like he was asking for much either. He was just asking to have a voice at the table. He wanted to help have some say into who his coach was, because he's gone through so many different coaches for the past couple of years, and none of them have worked out. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, man. This isn't like back in the 80s where, guys will just waste away on a team and never play for anybody else. Those days are long behind them.
Let's get into the NFL awards, our choices. This is not a prediction as to who's going to win the awards. It's just our selections. Who's going to win these awards in these categories, which obviously is going to be different because I think the NFL awards is the night before the Super Bowl is on Saturday. It's pretty much going to be all on Zoom. NBC Zoom collaboration, it looks like. But so it's going to be interesting to see. I don't even know how they do that. So I guess whoever the nominees are, I guess I saw it this year. I think it was like the Oscars or the I forgot which award show it was, where to every person that was nominated for the award, they had somebody outside of their house waiting with the lost, it just left.
Really?
It's gonna be the same. So I wonder if it's gonna be the same thing. So like if you're like Mahomes, somebody's waiting outside of your hotel or your suite with the MVP, and if you lose, they just walk down the hallway and just press the elevator and go back downstairs. Interested to see how that works. COVID times, though, you know how it is right now. So
absolutely, man. We're living in the COVID era. That's for sure.
Yeah, everything is out the window. So I'll let you start first. Who's your offensive rookie of the year?
Offensive rookie of the year.
This is actually a pretty hard choice too.
Yeah, I have two guys. I have two players in mind specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I have the rookie wide receiver for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, I believe his name is. Yep. Absolute stud. He had a phenomenal year. This guy surpassed I think it was around 1,400 yards.
Yep.
I think he had around 8 or 9 touchdowns. He just had a spectacular. That's a good year for a veteran player. For a rookie, it's pretty unbelievable, especially somebody who's catching passes from Kirk Cousins. Because sometimes this guy's really sketchy when it comes to throwing the football.
Yeah.
So I would say it would be between Justin Jefferson and definitely Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is probably going to win it, quarterback for the Chargers, just because they always tend to give it to quarterbacks. And, I wouldn't even argue if they did give it to him because he had a fantastic year. And he kind of stepped in at the last minute. He wasn't even supposed to be playing, but then I remember the starter. What was it? Tyrod Taylor? Yeah. Tyrod Taylor? Yeah, this guy had like a fluke injury. Whereas, what was it? They were giving him a painkiller. The doctor was giving him a painkiller, and he accidentally punctured his lung. And within a day or so, Justin Herbert found out that he was going to be playing. And this guy, from the first game, you could tell that this guy was special. He was averaging, less than 300 to 400 yards per game, 2 to 3 touchdowns. He's just a fantastic player. So I think it would be Justin Herbert, but it could be either Justin Herbert or I would say it would be or Jefferson.
If I'm Tyrod Taylor, I'm still considering suing the Chargers for what happened to me.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a stopgap QB, and I mean, everybody kind of knew what his role was, but to lose your starting spot based on what the team doctors did to you, I'm sorry. Yeah. If I'm them, I would still never forgive that team for that.
Yep, I agree.
That was beyond ridiculous.
So absolutely, I still can't believe it. To be honest with you, I mean, I can't believe he didn't sue. I think that's the big shocker for me. I thought for sure he decided he's not going to sue. So I mean, I don't know who his lawyer is. I don't know who his people are, but he's not getting that starting position back.
No, it's gone. It's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. His opportunity is long gone, man.
It's gone. So like I said, at most he would have lasted a year being the starter at most, but just like I said again, to me, it's football. You lose your starting spot, like how it is, man. It just there's always somebody chomping at the bit. I had my cousin that used to play in the NFL. I remember he gave me this story about how when he was with the Falcons, this is OJ Santiago, but when he was with the Falcons, his first year, and it's to tell you just the mentality of football players. And I mean, you played football, so I know you understand this, but I remember he broke his leg, and he played the last 3 games on a broken leg because the tight end that was behind him was a beast, and he was like chomping at the bit, ready to start. So we played like 2 or 3 of the last games of the year on a fractured leg, just so he doesn't lose his starting spot, and that to me is insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, for sure.
As I said, football players are just different. That's insane, but I'm like it's a situation where it's like you lose your starting job. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's football. Unless you're like a franchise leading guy, anybody can lose their spot. It seems like, and that's how it's kind of designed. But to lose it based on what the team doctors did to you is a whole different thing, though.
Such a sad situation, man. Such a sad situation. Like I'll be honest with you, I've never been a fan of Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
But to watch somebody lose their position like that, and from the first game, you knew he wasn't going to get that position back. Like,
yeah. His
opportunity literally disappeared, all because some doctor who supposedly has had all sorts of lawsuits against him for, like, why did the team even hire this guy in the first place?
Exactly.
Like, this guy has legit lawsuits against him, and they hire him to be a team doctor? Like, I don't know, man. How can you not sue? That's all I could say.
Yeah, they're extremely negligent. Like, honestly, like, I think you should revisit the suing that team, especially if this like causes some sort of not long-term effects, but like if this halts him from being able to play again in his career. I think he's okay now, so I don't think he has to worry about it there. But I would still recommend suing. Like, honestly, this is something I would strongly consider.
Absolutely.
That to me is insane. With that said, though, sorry, I know we kind of moved away from the subject a little bit, but I think Justin Jefferson to me would be the guy. I would go with him personally, even though Herbert, I totally agree, had an amazing season. 31 TDs, 10 picks in your rookie year is beyond phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Before Joe Burrow got hurt, like that was a very solid looking quarterback too. There was really some really good running backs, but rookies this year. James Robinson was another one. In Jacksonville that I know the team was 1-15, but he filled in admirably for when they cut Leonard Fournette.
Absolutely.
So he had a great year, but like I mean, when a guy breaks Randy Moss's rookie record, and I remember, and I think you remember that Randy Moss's first season in the league, how incredible and psychotic that was. So the fact that you broke that record, man, can you imagine how much better he'll be when he doesn't have Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball?
Oh my gosh, blows my mind. Honestly, considering Kirk Cousins, like he's the type of quarterback, he starts off very, very slow. I find within the past 3 years, like the first 2, 3, 4 games, he plays absolutely terribly, like horribly. And he starts to pick it up. I always find around the 5th or 6th game, he starts to pick it up. And all of a sudden, he starts throwing touchdowns, and he's a little bit more competent all the way towards the end of the game. But I always find he always starts off the season slow. If Jefferson had started off with a competent quarterback for the first 3 or 4 or 5 games, this guy would have been at 2,000 yards, man, because he's that good.
Yeah, he's really good. This is also another team that coincidentally should be in the sweepstakes for Deshaun Watson as well. How much better would this team be with him in the backfield, especially when you got Thielen and Jefferson on the wings, Daquan Cook as the running back? That's nothing to sneeze at. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. The future's bright. We definitely have some future studs. Some future studs that are about to take off. And I mean, Justin Jefferson, wow. Well, when you could put your name in the same category as Randy Moss from like a rookie perspective, I mean, that says it all.
So defensive rookie of the year, I'll start this first. My guy is Chase Young on the Washington football team.
Mm-hmm.
You look at his stats, he had 7.5 sacks, 32 tackles, 4 forced fumbles. This guy's already a Pro Bowler in year 1. He's a blue chip talent. I mean, he got drafted 2nd overall. He, as well as the rest of the line, they have a real opportunity to kind of similar to how like Nick Bosa, the year before, who was the number 2 pick with the Niners. The fact that he had as well, he was damn near the defensive player of the year, as well as a defensive rookie of the year. So this is why I said, I said before, in our earlier pods that I believe Washington has a bright future depending on how their offseason goes. And again, unless injuries occur, he's the type of guy that's definitely going to be raking in a lot of money, over the next like 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. I agree completely. I mean, from my perspective, when it comes to defensive rookie of the year, no other name comes to mind except for Chase Young. Like, he's that dominant. He's that good. He's definitely one of the reasons why Washington made it to the playoffs this year. Their defense basically carried them to the playoffs because their offense was, Alex Smith, They do have some really good weapons on that team, don't get me wrong. Anthony Gibson, they have F1, Terry McLaurin. They definitely have some weapons. They have the tight end, I can't remember his name now.
Logan Thomas.
But their defense is basically, it's for real. Their defense is amazing. And Chase Young is a huge part of it. I can't even think of to be honest with you, I can't think of any other defensive rookies that would even get close to Chase Young right now. So I think that one is definitely a runaway, for sure.
Whitfield's son, Antoine Whitfield Jr., was another one on he had a solid year this year as well. And I can't remember the linebacker on the Ravens. I'm trying to remember his name now. Patrick Queen. So there's
yes.
Patrick Queen as well was a very solid player as well. But
absolutely.
But Chase Young, to me, there's no. It's him, and then there's everybody else.
It's not even close.
For comeback player of the year, is there any other choice other than Alex Smith?
Aside from maybe Tom Brady, but Alex Smith, he's got the story. He's got. He played relatively good this year. I don't think anybody comes close to him. I mean, the only reason I say Brady is because Brady went from last year where he was the Patriots. He had something like maybe 25 touchdowns, 10 to 12 interceptions. This year, 40 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards, 15 interceptions. But I mean, his story does not come anywhere close to Alex Smith. Considering that almost, 2 years ago, this guy was on the verge of dying because of an infection in his leg. Due to a horrible injury he had on the football field. To come back from that is phenomenal. And he wasn't a superstar when he played this year, but he was good enough to win some games. He's never been a stud, but he was good enough to play some games. So, I mean, with his story, With how he played, I think he's definitely the runaway favorite for that.
Yeah, I believe so too. I think it's just self-explanatory. I don't think there's anything to really talk about. All you have to do is watch the. I think ESPN did the E60. If you ever watched that show E60, they did one on Alex Smith. Just watch that episode, and that explains basically everything that you need to know about that award. Because that leg will look gruesome.
It was a bad injury.
Yeah, that leg looked gruesome. Like that was like his leg was like black, like at one point. And I mean that was not only an amputation situation, but that was like as you said, he almost died. So what? Yep. I mean, what is there to discuss? There really isn't anything to discuss. And he had a winning record while he was on the football field. I mean, come on, man. It's I don't even care about the stats. Just the fact that he did that and he had a winning record and he helped them get to the playoffs. I don't need to know anything else.
I was surprised when he still decided he wanted to play.
Yeah,
I figured that type of injury like that's I figured he was done. Nobody would have blamed him for retiring after that injury.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you think of that's one of the worst injuries you've probably seen in football. I mean, the Joe Theismann one is similar. I don't that one to this day. His injury and don't Google or YouTube Sean Livingston's injury, the basketball point guard that was on the Clippers back in the day. He just retired from Golden State, but Roger, don't ever just trust me when I say this. You don't ever want to watch that injury.
I definitely want to watch that injury. I can't remember that one.
No,
I remember Joe Theismann's one. I remember Joe Theismann because I specifically remember Lawrence Taylor jumping up after he hit him, screaming for the medics to come and basically look at this guy. That's how bad it was. I felt like Lawrence Taylor was actually rattled by that.
Oh, he was distraught. He was distraught by it. Yeah, I remember that. He was distraught by it. And for somebody like Lawrence Taylor to be distraught by what he did is, I mean, it was bad. But
that says a lot in itself.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But that shot, don't do it. Don't do the Sean Livingston injury. Don't do it to yourself, Roger. Don't do it.
Fair enough. Roger's
enough. Like, I'm doing it right now. So halfway through this podcast, he's going to be like, oh, God. Oh, my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's your coach of the year?
Ooh. Coach of the year. That was a tough one, man. The coach of the year. Let me see. There's a few coaches that actually come to mind. I mean, there's the obvious choices. You know, I would say Bruce Arians. I'd say Andy Reid, definitely. I don't know. That's a tough one, Calvin. That's a tough one. You know, I would have said Matt LaFleur. I would say that just because, you know, since he started with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, I feel like he has uplifted the team because they have played a lot better. They made it to the playoffs last year. You know, they were one step away from the Super Bowl this year. But I can't fully say his name because that field goal at the end of the Packers versus the Bucs game, that kind of eliminated him off of my list after that.
Even though this is a regular season award, though.
Even though it's a regular season award, I feel like that play call, I think that transcends the playoffs into the regular season. I do feel that. I feel like it was that bad, Calvin. I really, truly do. I truly feel it does. I mean, that's right up there with having Russell Wilson throw the ball to basically an unknown guy on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl with 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad. That was pretty bad. Like you take the ball from your stud quarterback and kick a field goal even though you're down by 8 points.
I don't know. I don't know if it's that bad. I don't know if it's Russell Wilson bad. I don't know if it's that bad.
That's you're right. Yeah, that Russell Wilson. Yeah. That play was pretty bad. Yeah, that play was pretty bad. I mean, there's a lot of people that are worthy of it. I mean, this one, I don't know. It's definitely a tough call. You could look at Kevin Stefanski as well. He's the Browns. Yeah, I think he's the Browns head coach, right?
Yes, he is.
You know, there's a lot of guys that's worthy for sure.
He's actually very worthy.
Absolutely. Like that team played amazing this year. There's definitely a few names, man.
You can, it's funny. I wanted to choose Brian Flores, but I can't unsee the Tua thing, man. I can't see it because really and truly, to me, they should have just sat him the rest of the year. Everybody would have understood, especially the injury that he had coming out of college. And I think, honestly, throwing Tua in, I think it costed him a playoff spot.
I think so too.
Because to me, they could have still had a chance to make the playoffs, and you still have Houston's pick, the number 3 pick. So you weren't losing. You weren't losing anything. You're still getting a high pick regardless. So it wouldn't have mattered. I get it, but to me, it was like, I don't know. I thought they should have just went with Fitzpatrick and just try to make the playoffs, and then just have that morale. Then you have another year where you can bring in Tua. And I don't think Tua was totally ready.
No, I don't think he was ready neither. I mean, and considering that you did have a competent quarterback,
that was playing well.
Yeah, and he played well. I find he's the ultimate Iron Man too. Like, he's another Brady. This guy, I feel like this guy's going to play for the next 4 to 5 years. So yeah, I didn't quite understand that. I mean, I would give it to Flores. He did turn around that team.
Yeah,
he did a fantastic job turning around that team and just turning around the general culture of the team too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he did a phenomenal job. Would I say he's Coach of the Year? I don't know. Coach of the Year, I always find Coach of the Year is just one of those awards where it's like, it's a little subjective. Because you always have teams that kind of rise up, teams that were sucky last year who definitely kind of rise up this year. I always find it's a tough one to gauge. Unless you have one team that just, destroys everybody, then it's different. But I mean, I don't feel like this year was that year. I feel like there was a lot of coaches that would be worthy of that award.
I guess if I have to choose one, the Stefanski one is real good. That's a really good one. It's a toss up, honestly, between him and Frank Wright. I would probably say Frank Wright just because, I mean, they finished with an 11-5 record. They made the playoffs. They had one of the best Ds in the league. The run game was very solid, and I think they got a good last year from Phillip Rivers, and I think honestly, and I mean, this is due to some of it is due to coaching, some of it is due to the player working hard. Obviously, more so to the player working hard, but I think they might have found a stud with Michael Pittman. Even though he was third on the team in yards, I think he's actually really good. So yeah, it's interesting to see where they are. The Colts. I think they're in a situation where I think they have to go all in on Deshaun Watson too. Although I don't know how that's going to work because it's the same division. So the chances of them getting Deshaun is going to be highly unlikely. But they may have to give up the stadium and play in a high school arena.
100%.
By the time that trade is done, but yeah, I think it's a toss up between. It's almost split down the middle. I would lean maybe towards Frank Wright, but I mean Stefanski, and and Flores as well. They did great jobs, and Stefanski. I mean, you can't underrate the job that he did. Cleveland actually made the playoffs for the first time in almost 20 years. I mean, what can you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. It doesn't get any better than that, especially for Cleveland.
Yeah, and they won, won, and had a chance to almost play in the championship once Mahomes went down. So
yeah, it's true. They were there, man.
Yeah,
they had their opportunity to win it.
They're going to be good. Like they're going to be good at least for next year. Unless they have injuries and stuff, they're going to be good.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's your offensive player of the year?
I would have to give it to Derrick Henry, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is.
Is there even a second?
I can't even think of anybody who would come close to him. I mean, this guy topped 2,000 yards. He had like 17 touchdowns. I mean, come on. How can you possibly give it to anybody else?
Yeah, I don't think you can.
No. He was a phenomenal player this year. He had like a storybook type season. Yeah, I mean, other people I would even think if I wanted to throw somebody in there, I'd say maybe Aaron Rodgers, but I would definitely say Derrick Henry. I mean, he seems like the most worthy to me.
Yeah, I mean, he ran for, obviously ran for 2,000 yards. He was almost 500 yards better than the second place runner up, which is Daquan Cook. Like he ran almost 500 yards more than he did this year, which is insane. It's funny when you look at, and this is to tell you how much the running back game has changed, because when you look at rushing yards or rushing leaders, man, there isn't really a lot. There's only 8 running backs ran for 1,000 yards.
Yep.
And really and truly, outside of Cook and Henry, nobody ran for more than 1,200 yards. Like, it's just a different game. Like, there's 9 people who ran for 1,000 yards. One of them is a quarterback, which is Lamar Jackson.
Not surprised.
Yeah, everybody else is like, you look at it, it's wow. It was actually a little surprising looking at it today, like how bad it is.
Well, I think it's just the evolution of the position. I feel like slowly but surely, like the workhorse running back, they are slowly being replaced by committees.
Yeah.
And, it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because they don't want to pay the person. Like, the higher the stats you get, the more money you're going to demand. Look at Dalvin Cook, perfect example of that. Look at other guys that have come before him. It's either that or they don't want you to get injured, so they want you to share the workload and really save you for when they really need you.
Yeah.
There's a variety of different reasons why that's the case. But I feel like when you look at now compared to, let's say, 10, 20 years ago, like, it's completely different. It's completely different now.
Like, really and truly, the only workhorse, really and truly, is Henry and Cook.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, because even Elliott, I think is like Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's almost at the point where I wouldn't be surprised if he's in a 2-man committee next year at the very least.
Calvin, I would not be surprised. I feel like Elliott has been slowly declining over the past couple years, and this year he had a horrible year. Yeah. And I don't know. It could be because most of his offensive line was pretty much banged up all year.
Yep.
It could be because they lost their quarterback very early.
Yep.
Dak Prescott. Could be a variety of different reasons, but all in all, like, when I did watch him, he didn't really have the push that he normally does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He didn't look like he was running as hard as he normally does. Past couple of years, he's been money, and when it comes to the goal line, they would always give him the ball.
Yeah.
Now it's like they're pulling him out, and they're giving what's his name of the backup? Pollard. Yeah. This year they gave Pollard more and more plays.
Yep.
And I think next year I really do think it's going to be a committee.
Yeah, it's interesting where the game is going, man. Like, it's I don't know if it's for better or for worse, but it's just weird. Like, you're watching it now, you're like, this is really odd to see, man. I don't know what to say to it. When you look at Henry's stats, he had 3 200-yard games this year. And man, he scored 33 touchdowns the last 2 years.
It's crazy.
That's insane. Again, this is a COVID year, so everything is just out the window. But it's so weird because, like, I feel like his run to 2,000 was so underpromoted. Like, honestly, Roger, I didn't even realize he ran for 2,000 yards until, like, I think I was watching the NFL game day highlights at night, like late at night, and I'm like, wait a minute, he was a contention for 2,000 yards. Wait a minute, he got 2,000 yards. Like, I was like, what the hell? What where was I? Like,
I know. It was the most unstated 2,000 yards. It was the most unstated 2,000 yards ever. Like, nobody was talking about it at all. But you could tell he was racking up yards. Like, he did, like...
No, of course.
He had 3 games where he was over 200 yards. Yeah, when he ran wild over some teams. So it's just one of those years. I guess it's just one of those things where it's like COVID kind of masked everything.
Yeah.
So people didn't realize how well he was actually running.
Yeah, like, it's funny because there usually is a regression for guys that run 2,000 yards in history. The following year, they almost drop off by about I would say maybe at least 400 plus yards the following year. So
interesting.
Which is interesting because it's weird. It's like it's almost like a bit of a wear and tear when it comes to that. So I don't know if he's going to drop to that degree, but as you know, those big running backs they take major hits, and after a while that shit takes its toll, man. But he's still so young because I think he just turned 27. So it's possible that he beat the odds. I know, right? So, but I'm like I'm expecting like a regression, and it's weird too that the Titans actually have, I think there's 6 or 7 running backs that's run for 2,000 yards in the history of the game. I think it's 6. Who is it? O.J. Simpson, Barry Sanders, Eric Dickerson, Chris Johnson, Adrian Peterson, and him. And the Titans have 2 of them. in their history, right? Because Chris Johnson was the last guy. CJ2K was the last one to get it.
CJ2K, absolutely. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. Man, he was so fast too, man. Like that guy didn't look like he was like running on clouds, man. Like I used to love watching him run.
Absolutely. He was so quick. Oh man, he made people miss. He was fantastic. Like oh my gosh, he was so fast. Yeah. Definitely Derrick Henry. I mean, I can't even think of anybody really truly coming anywhere close to him, to be honest with you.
No, I think he has that wrapped up. Who's your I think this award's a little harder, but who's your defensive player of the year?
That one's tough, man. That one's tough. You have the usual suspects. You have Aaron Donald, who's always phenomenal. Like, he was phenomenal last year. He would probably be in the top of my pile. But then you have other guys like TJ Watt, who was fantastic. You have Shaq Barrett, who played really well as well. So there's a lot of people up there. I would probably say most likely it's going to be Aaron Donald. Just because of his body of work.
You hacked my computer again. I know it. I got to get the Norton antivirus, man. You just hack it into my shit.
So you got Aaron Donald too?
I do. Mm-hmm. What's your reasoning?
He played fantastic this year. That's the thing with Aaron Donald. He always plays well every single year.
Yeah.
Always above double-digit sacks. He's always the guy that other teams have to double team, sometimes even triple team. He's the type of player that the quarterback always needs to know where he is. It's just his effect on the offense, the competitive offense. It's just amazing. Like, it's absolutely amazing. And this year was no less. Like, he had a phenomenal year, and his team was the number one defense in the league. I mean,
yeah.
Between him and Jalen Ramsey, between him rushing the quarterback and Jalen Ramsey cutting off the whole left side of the field, that's the reason why they were so good this year, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the best. To me, he's the best defensive player in football. I don't want to say it's not close, because there is definitely nominees for that. Like, as you said, like Ramsey, his teammate. He's phenomenal. Xavier Howard's phenomenal. TJ Watt, like, man, how talented is that Watt family? Because
my God.
Because they have a third brother too. That's nice too.
He's a fullback. He's a fullback for another NFL team. Shoot, what team was it?
I can't remember his name. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I know he's solid too. In the position he plays, he's solid too.
Guy, 3 NFL players, and basically 2 of them are the top NFL players in the league.
I know.
Like, what's the odds of that happening, man? These guys, their daddy needs to go and flipping jerk off in a flipping cup or something, because he's only breeding champions. He's breeding flipping 6'5", 6'6", 250 to 300 pound champions. That's all he breeds. Like, honestly, it's crazy.
Oh man, I didn't want to see that image in my mind. But you know what? It's crazy, because number one, can you imagine breaking into that house?
Oh.
And dropping your weapon. I would pay.
You break in, you gotta break right in.
I would pay anything to watch that. I would pay anything to watch the alarm system. Like, just watch that over and over again. how they pummel the burglar to death. Like, that would be like made for TV, some type of shit.
No, I agree completely. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like, to me, as I said, like, Aaron Donald's the best to me. 13.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 27 solo tackles, 18 assisted, 15 hurries, 14 stuffs. I mean, it's hard to go with anybody else but him. Again, like, as a guy that's constantly double teamed at that size, like, I know early, like, on an earlier episode, we were calling him Wolverine, because at his height, the fact that he's on the line, like, he's not even on like the edge, like, he's over the nose tackle. Like, I don't know how the hell this guy does that at that height. Like, you know how strong he must be, man. Holy smokes. Because he's moving guys. Like, it's not even like, is this all speed? Like, he's moving guys. Like, he's getting double teamed and moving guys left and right.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's a flippin' strong guy, and it's not even as if he's specifically huge. I mean, he's strong as hell. Like he's grown man. He's got grown man strength. The dude's like 6'1". He's 270 pounds, and he's taking on old linemen that are, 6'5", 6'6", 300 and some odd pounds, and he's literally throwing them up like how I would throw up my 3-year-old daughter. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. I mean, you look at some of the videos, some of his highlight videos. He's like picking up 300-pound men and throwing them into other 300-pound men and grabbing the quarterback.
And running
It's
down the
insane.
quarterback.
And running down the quarterback,
Yeah.
exactly, because he's fast.
Yeah,
He's not slow at all. He's flipping quick for his size, man.
very much so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I would say it has to be him. And I guess I know you shot your shot with the MVP. So again, that's what I said. I think you hacked my computer. But I mean, really and truly, the MVP. The MVP is one of those, especially in the NFL, is one of those things I feel like there's almost no competition by the time we get to the end of the season. We pretty much already know who it is at the end of every year.
True.
I agree. So, it started off with Russell Wilson. I think he was the early MVP, and then the middle of the year was Mahomes. You thought Mahomes was going to run away with it, but then he kind of faltered, much like Wilson. Well, not as bad as Wilson, but he he definitely fell off a little bit in terms of winning the MVP anyway. Even though I still think he's the best player in football, the most dangerous player in football. But Aaron was probably the most consistent, throughout the whole year. Like he was at the same level all through the year.
I agree. Aaron Rodgers had a fantastic year. I mean, 48 touchdowns, 4,200 yards, only 5 picks. Like he had a great season. And I mean, even look at his number one wide receiver, Devontae Adams. Dude had like 17 touchdowns this year.
I know.
Like, I mean, it can't go unstated how well Rodgers played this year. And his team did phenomenal. I mean, they were a great team. Many people had them as the pick to go to the Super Bowl and win it.
Yeah.
He just ran into Tom Brady. That's all that happened.
It's weird, man, because you realize he never really had a blue chip number one like ever in his career that he's been on Green Bay. Because they were all made to be that, but they were never like. Because I mean, you think from Greg Jennings, like Greg Jennings was tough, but you wouldn't say he was like top 5 receiver in his in his position. Even when he was in his prime. Jordy Nelson. I mean, Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb were tough. I don't know if you'd say Jordy Nelson, as good as he was when he was playing, was he a top 5 or top 2 or top 3 receiver? I don't know if you can say that he was, even though he was really good. And now Adams. I think Adams now is top 5, but it's always guys that they kind of kind of grew from within. Like they never drafted that number 1 stud, which they could have did last year, because I think they could have got Jefferson. And imagine if they got Jefferson on that team too.
Oh, my God, that would have been crazy. That would have been unfair. That's what it would have been.
Well, they would have been in the Super Bowl, I would think, if that happened.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still don't know what Green Bay's what their GM was thinking. Honestly, I have no clue what he was thinking. You're telling me you pass on the first round of all these wide receivers, a plethora of wide receivers that can help your team, and you pick up a quarterback when your quarterback is literally still in his prime. It's not even as if it's a situation where it's like Brady, he's like 43 years old. Belichick might think that his skills are degrading, but I think it still has more to do with his weapons than anything else. But Aaron Rodgers is still in his prime, and you go and you pick up a quarterback in the first round. Like, I mean, what were you thinking? Were you trying to piss off Aaron Rodgers? Did you not want him on the team? Like, oh my God, I don't know, man. It blows my mind that these people are actually getting paid to make these decisions.
Now, how much longer do you think he has in Green Bay? Because I mean, he is 37 years old. But it's at the same time, to lend to what you're saying, it's clearly, obviously. I mean, the season that he had, like this is not a fluke. He still has a lot left in the tank.
True.
So how much? But with that draft pick, like how much longer do you think he has in Green Bay now?
Honestly, I think he probably has about a year, maybe 2 years tops before he demands a trade. But it depends. Situations change quickly, right? If he has another banner year next year and he makes it to the Super Bowl, he might change his mind completely. You never truly know. I mean, this year was a fantastic year, but they lost in a heartbreaker game. And a lot of the decisions that were made during that game was pretty questionable. So, I mean, I get it. At the end of the game, he was pissed off. He was angry, probably very sad. I can't really take what people say at the end of a loss for face value.
Yeah.
The true test will come within the next couple months, how he reacts, what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the dude looked like he just lost his best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Put this guy in a rubber room somewhere, because I feel like he might hurt himself. That's how I felt after I watched him.
That's the thing, too. They got some good pieces, man, because their defense was good. Like, it improved this year. What is the name? Robert Tonyan, that the tight end who was training with George Kittle this offseason. He's almost like he's basically a stud, at that position. Like Lazard is good. Like if they can get I don't know what the draft class is for receivers. I think it's another good class. But if so, I mean, you take a shot there and just see if you can bring somebody like that along to go with Adams. Like if you just add one more piece, I think, and really they have enough. But you add one more piece, one more stud receiver, even if he's not a number one, but like a 1A. I think next year it would be. I mean, they're gonna have some stiff competition because there's some good teams in the NFC, but and if they're healthy and stuff. But I think they're you would make them strong contenders again, especially like I said, if they draft like one of those high end receivers. I don't see. I really don't see how they don't go. They're not playing back in the NFC Championship again next year.
I agree. I mean, they have a phenomenal team. I think even if they don't get another stud receiver, I still think they have a good chance of making it back to the Super Bowl. I mean, he has a lot of good young talent. Like Lazard is fantastic. Tonyan, I feel like he's an up and coming tight end. Aaron Jones, fantastic
running back. Yeah,
amazing running back. They have some really good pieces. I think they should have made it to the Super Bowl this year, but I think they just ran into Tom Brady and a very good defense.
As you said, I think he's walking away with this award. Everybody pretty much knows. It's the other ones. It's the other awards. I think I wouldn't say even in flux, but there's a little more mystique with the other choices. But MVP is, you pretty much know who it is at this point.
True.
So regarding the Super Bowl, we'll wrap this up with just having this talk on the big game. This is what everybody's here for, to watch, and having those conversations right now, pertaining to the league right now. When we're not talking about COVID. What would you say is the most important matchup for you on Sunday that's like the major factor?
I would say it would be the offensive line versus Shaquille Barrett and JPP.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this game, honestly, I know everybody wants to watch a high-flying game. I think this is going to be one of the games that's just going to be, it's all about the trenches. I think Tampa Bay is going to try and run the ball.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be all about defensively for Tampa Bay, just rushing four guys, not blitzing Patrick Mahomes, rushing him, and just everybody else playing a soft zone. Double teaming Kelsey, double teaming Tyreek Hill. I think that's the key of the game. If somebody's going to beat them, let it be Hardman or Sammy Watkins or somebody else, but not have Kelsey and not have Tyreek Hill beat you. Yeah. So, currently KC, their two starting tackles, offensive tackles, are out. Eric Fisher, and I can't remember what the next guy's name is.
Yeah.
But Eric Fisher is top tier offensive lineman. I feel like just having two replacements filling in, I don't know. I think they're going to have a tough time. Not to say I think that KC won't have a chance to win because Patrick Mahomes, if you have Patrick Mahomes, you always have a chance. But I think that I think he's going to be under some pressure, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good game to watch.
It's funny. I read that the backup O-line, I can't remember the guy's name, but apparently he was he was Miller was running through on the Super Bowl 6 years ago in Carolina. So so that's not good that he's going to be starting because I mean JPP right now is that defense is hot right now.
Oh, that defense is so hot, so hot. Those pass rushers, oh my gosh, I mean they're phenomenal. JPP's always good, and he's always finds himself in Super Bowls. Like he's won Super Bowls with the Giants. Yeah. He was on the team with the Giants when they beat the Patriots those 2 times. Mm-hmm. This guy's big, tall, fast, strong. Shaquille Barrett is phenomenal as well. That whole Tampa defense has been pretty good. Their only weakness, I would say, would be more on the back end in terms of their DBs. Yeah. But their linebackers are phenomenal. They have Vita Vea in the center. Mm-hmm. Fantastic run stopper. They were number one against the run. In the past, they weren't as good. They were like 10th or 12th. But their pass rush, it's all about the pass rush.
To lend to what you're saying, man, I think Leonard Fournette is going to be important to that game as well because I mean he started playing really well at the end of the year when once Ronald Jones got injured and he took advantage of his opportunities.
He did.
Yo, did you hear the story? What happened with him in Jacksonville?
No, actually, I didn't.
So basically, they said what happened was he showed up to practice. And they told him at the gate to basically go see the coach right away. And when he went up there, the coach basically just said, "Hey, thank you for your service. We got it from here."
Wow.
No explanation as to why he got cut. He said he basically had to take a week off and kind of just like get his mind right because he was he was so shocked that the fact that he got cut with no warning and no explanation.
My God, I'm not surprised. It's flipping Jacksonville. Yep. It's Jacksonville. Like, come on, man. Come on. This guy was your foundation player for the past 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
Like, he was a solid running back. And then one day he just comes in. They bashed him, too. They bashed him.
I know.
I'm sorry, but there has to be a reason why one of the top running backs, like I'd say top 5 to 10 running backs within the past 2 to 3 years, he just gets released and nobody picks him up. Like, literally, nobody even sniffed him.
Yeah.
Nobody inquired. They tried to trade him. They couldn't trade him. There has to be a reason. There was rumors coming out that he was difficult and so on. But there was rumors coming out about Jalen Ramsey. Think of all the players, the great players that left Jacksonville within the past couple years.
Because that 1 year where they almost went to the Super Bowl, and they gave the Patriots the run for the money that AFC Championship because their defense was incredible. It was their defense and it was Leonard Fournette. That was basically 100%. The key to their team.
He was their whole offense at the time.
Yeah.
He was the whole offense.
And he was a rookie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they literally pissed it away. They
really did.
Oh my gosh! Like it's crazy. They had such a good defense that year when they went against the Patriots.
It was unbelievable. That defense was unbelievable.
Fantastic. They were phenomenal, and they literally pissed away all the players, drove away all their stars, and then they finally got smart and got rid of their head coach. I mean, yeah, but Leonard Fournette, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He's always been a phenomenal player. I feel like at the starting of the season, I felt that he really, I don't know what, maybe his head wasn't fully into it, or I don't know what the reason was, but he wasn't playing to his full capacity. I only felt like during the mid-year after, what's his name? I keep forgetting Ronald Jones. After Ronald Jones got injured, then Fournette started to play a little bit better. And then in the playoffs, like, he's been phenomenal so far. I think one of the keys to the game is going to be just give this guy the ball. Let this guy run the ball because you know that they're going to blitz Brady. They're going to blitz Brady all day long. Last game that they played, when Tampa played KC during the year, and I think it was like week 6, they blitzed Brady 48% of the time. One of the best ways you could stop a blitz is by having a running game, because all of a sudden they're going to be afraid to send guys because they know if they send too many guys, the running back could run all over them. So, I mean, I think he's going to be definitely a big player in this game.
I think so too, and that's the one thing too. Like the Chiefs don't defend the run well, you know.
They don't.
And if you want to keep the ball away from Mahomes, you know the precious time of possession. If you want to keep that in your hands, you got to test that run game early and often, you know. And he's a physical guy, so I think if he, because I don't know what the status of Ronald Jones is, if he's going to be playing in this game a lot, but even if he isn't, I think you got to like punish. We talk about how Brady's kind of brought, you know, the Patriot way over to Tampa. I think that's one of the things that Belichick and them used to do really well is in these situations, especially the Super Bowl, in some of those Super Bowls, they would pound you to death with that running game.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I think, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you got to kind of use that at least in the first couple of quarters. That, like, you got to, like, I think with Mahomes, obviously you got to keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible. And, I mean, that's how I think the Patriots beat Kansas City one of those years was because they ran the ball like crazy. Like, I remember that Tom Brady, I don't think he threw the ball that much. Like that game they won in the AFC Championship. And just to ruin their rhythm. Like, you just don't want them on a rhythm. So I think you just have to control the ball as much as possible. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I agree completely. I feel like the Patriots, they created the blueprint on how to stop Patrick Mahomes. And their first time they played them was in the playoffs for the AFC Conference Finals. And their keys to the game was basically running the ball, keeping the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, having a solid defense. They did that. And they actually managed to do that for 3 quarters. And then Patrick Mahomes still all of a sudden, like he always does in the fourth quarter, you know, like in the first 3 minutes, he scored like 3 touchdowns and brought them back.
He's insane.
Right? He is insane. And then they were lucky enough to win the coin toss in overtime. And Brady took it and drove down the field, and they ended up winning.
Yeah. But
I do feel that the key to the game will be definitely to try and slow down Mahomes. Take away his safety blankets. You know, take away Kelsey. Kelsey is a big part of their passing game. I feel like if you could take him away, if you could somehow take away Tyreek Hill, I would be actually okay if Tyreek Hill had a solid game. But I think Kelsey is definitely one of the big keys because he scores touchdowns. His like on-field awareness as to where the open pockets are just uncanny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's the reason why 3rd down, 10 yards, this guy always gets open. He always finds the open man. He always finds the open pocket, and you know his hands are phenomenal. He scores touchdowns. He does everything. You know, easier said than done. It's not hard to slow. It's not easy to slow down a quarterback the caliber of Patrick Mahomes, but it can be done. Definitely, but
I know you said that last game they played against each other. I mean, Tyreek ran for like how much yards did he go for that last
yards.
Game? Oh, I thought it was 2,000. I thought it was 2,000 yards. That's what it felt like. It felt like 2,000 yards, not 200 yards.
In the first quarter.
Yeah,
so
the first
220 yards in the first quarter, and was it 2 or 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, like
it was
3
something
touchdowns.
ridiculous.
It was insane.
Yeah, but I think. I definitely think that they've learned from that. Because I mean, they had a horrible I don't know who was calling the defense at the time, but they were trying to. I think they were trying to man up on Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill just kept on burning his guy like over and over and over again. In the second half, they actually got smart, and they decided to, instead of blitzing Patrick Mahomes, they just had everybody kind of drop back. They kept Tyreek Hill in front of them. They double-teamed Kelsey, and it made a big difference because it definitely slowed down Mahomes in the second half to the point where Brady had the opportunity to actually bring them back and possibly even win the game. They're going to have to do the same thing. Like, I mean, the Bucs defense, if they win, it's going to be because of the Bucs defense. I'm convinced it's not going to be because, you know, Brady throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I don't even think he cares about that at this point.
I don't think he cares, no. If he's perfectly happy just being a game manager, controlling the game, not having any turnovers. But I think to be honest with you, I think that we're going to see a similar Brady to how they played the Packers. You know, realizing that Aaron Rodgers puts up a lot of points, Brady did do a lot of things that he doesn't normally do in terms of just kind of throwing up the ball, trying to give his receiver a chance, but also putting the ball in harm's way as well.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing about Brady. Brady does whatever he needs to do in order to win the game. So if he knows it's going to be a shootout, he has the ability to shoot the ball, to throw the ball. If he just needs to manage the game, and if he has 200 yards and 1 touchdown, he's perfectly happy with that too, as long as they win.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the underrated matchup to me is I think it's Devin White versus Mahomes and Kelsey.
I agree.
Because I think if Devin White's able to control things underneath, it's going to give him a better chance to win. Which again, it's funny to say because I'm not like it. They can still go crazy even if they take away Kelsey, and Lord knows we've seen it. But it's one of those things where I think he's going to be important as well. I know Shaq Barrett, you're talking about him and Sue and those guys and stuff. They're going to be important, but I think Devin White's going to be important because like in the year, anytime they were causing havoc defensively, he was in the middle of everything. So, so I think to me that's the matchup. Like, who's going to own like underneath? Is it going to be White or is it going to be Kelsey and Mahomes? Because if it's Kelsey and Mahomes, that game may get away quickly.
It might. I can't say one thing. I mean, up front, Tampa Bay's defense, they're a bunch of all-stars, basically.
Yeah, they're tough.
Whether you're looking at if you're looking at Sue, whether you're looking at Barrett, whether you're looking at White, I mean, they're really, really, really phenomenal up front. The back end is usually where they can be had.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be more strategy than anything. I mean, not to say it's not going to be a high-scoring game because I think they have the ability to do that too. Because when you look at Tampa Bay's offense, they're no slouches neither. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have Evans on one side, you have Godwin on the other side, you have Brait, you have Gronk, you have Fournette in the backfield. I mean, to be honest with you, if they were going against any other team, I think they would be a shoo-in to win. Yeah. But just because you know how explosive KC can be and how Patrick Mahomes could score, they could be done by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then within 2 minutes, this guy scores 3 touchdowns. Like,
oh, don't I know
he's that good. He's that good. Yeah. So I mean,
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your point.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, it's like I said, it's gonna be a great game.
Who's got more? I don't know. Like, I know. Just watching kind of like these previews and stuff because I'm trying to think like who has more pressure on them in terms of the quarterbacks in this game. If it's Brady or if it's Mahomes, and honestly, I don't know if it's either. Like I think it's equal pressure for either of them, and the reason why I say that is because like if Brady wins, right, he's gonna have more Super Bowl wins than any and every franchise in the league, which that alone is just crazy. He would have won 70% of the Super Bowls that he played in, which obviously which is out of 10, which is nuts. I read this stat where he's ended the season in the Super Bowl more than 50% of his career.
I know. I heard that the other day, and I was blown away. I didn't even realize it. He's been in the league for 20 years, and 50% of his time, and you were not even including that 1 year where he got injured,
where he blew his knee out, right? First game.
Where he blew out his knee within I think the first 4 or 5 games. Like this blows my mind. That's crazy. If he wins another Super Bowl, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
so go ahead.
I was just saying, like, in terms of pressure between the two, I don't know, man. It's a tough throw up. Brady, if Brady wins, it's going to be another feather on his cap. Like, he already has, his career is enough for, like, if you break down his career into, like, 3 parts, three separate entities, any one of those parts would be Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
Whether when he started his career, he won 3 Super Bowls within the first couple of years. He had a drought of maybe about 5 or 6 years, and then he won another 3 Super Bowls after that. Like, he's just had a phenomenal career. And I know everybody's hyping up Patrick Mahomes, and I think he's a phenomenal player. I really do. And, I think he's a great player. I think he's a fantastic leader. I think he has very few holes in his game. But I think people have to be very careful when they start comparing him to all the greats that have come before him, simply for the fact that part of the reasons why some of these players were great is because of longevity and their ability to just play year after year. And we don't really know yet whether Patrick Mahomes has that ability. Right. He could win a Super Bowl this year, 100%. But I still think that you need to hold off at least for another 3, 4, 5 years. Let's see what he does. And then you could start playing him in the same tier as Brady and the Montanas and, all the truly greats.
Yeah, he's so young. And you're right. Like Brady's got, again, it's a feather in his cap. That's why I'm saying, I don't know if there's real pressure for either guy because, even if he loses, he still has 6, right?
Yeah, I know.
He still has 6, and nobody's going to look down on a 43-year-old quarterback losing in a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Nobody's going to, fault them for that.
No, he technically, according to a lot of people, he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Nobody thought that Tampa Bay was really going to go make it to the Super Bowl this year.
Right.
I mean, everybody thought Patrick Mahomes was going to. If I'd say anything, I'd say the expectation is that Mahomes is going to win. I think everybody's kind of expected it. They're the reigning Super Bowl champions. They have pretty much the same identical team that they had last year. There has been zero changes, zero turnover. Their team is pretty much the same. I mean, the only reason Brady has a chance is because the only reason Tampa has a chance is because they have Brady. Frankly,
yeah,
they've always had a good defense, but I always feel that Brady. If you have Brady, you have a chance, and that's what I always tell people. I would never bet against this guy. Look at the past Super Bowls he's won with the Patriots. They haven't had the best team. They haven't necessarily had the best defense. They definitely haven't had the best offensive players. But because they have Brady, they have a chance.
Yep. And then when you look at Mahomes, right? Because obviously to me he's the best player in football. With an incredible there's no ceiling on his future right now because just the things that he's done since he's been in the league, it's pretty much unprecedented.
Yep.
Winning a second Super Bowl, especially going back to back, will put him in some great company historically. And I mean, considering he's not even close to his prime yet, it just adds to the phenomenon of his trajectory. But if he loses to a legend, even at 43 years old. And again, he's going to have so much more opportunities to get back to this game. And we know nothing's guaranteed in football, but he has so much opportunities that I don't know if there's a real pressure between either of them. You want to win, obviously. That's the pressure, I guess, in itself inherently. But really and truly, I don't know. I don't know if you can really say if there's real pressure either way. Because if either one loses, it's not oh my gosh, this is a stain on your career. It's just if Mahomes loses, it's okay, you're 1-1 in Super Bowls. There's a lot of great quarterbacks about 1-1 in Super Bowls.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
And if he wins 2, it's now this guy has 2 Super Bowl rings, an MVP, possibly 2 Super Bowl MVPs. To start off your career, 3 years in as a starter, you've never seen anything like that before. And again, he's not even in his prime years yet.
One thing I can say is, when you look back at history and when you look back at young quarterbacks in particular, for me, what comes to mind is Russell Wilson, right? Russell Wilson kind of came out of nowhere at the time. He ended up being the starter for Seattle. Mm-hmm. He was phenomenal. He was great. He led them to a Super Bowl. Then he's still great right now, right? He led them to a Super Bowl. He led them to another Super Bowl back to back. The first Super Bowl, they were amazing. Second Super Bowl, he ended up losing to Brady. And, of course, because of the play, which we described earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Pete Carroll. Don't know what he was thinking. But anyways, after that, they haven't made it back to the Super Bowl since. Even though he has some really good weapons. I mean, you never know. Nothing is guaranteed in the NFL.
That's it.
Nothing is guaranteed. So just because you have 2, Patrick Mahomes might win the Super Bowl. He might win the Super Bowl this year, back to back. He might also lose. And there's no guaranteeing next couple of years whether he's going to make it back. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example of that. He's been one of the best players in the league for years now. And this guy's only sniffed the Super Bowl once. He's played in a Super Bowl once, and he's won the Super Bowl once. And after that, he just simply just cannot make it back.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard, man. It's hard to win a Super Bowl. It's hard to make it to a Super Bowl just because of the quality teams that you play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then when you look at salary caps,
Injuries.
when you look at injuries, like all these things can change the trajectory of a team. So, I mean, I don't care who you are. You could be as great as Aaron Rodgers. You could be as great as Russell Wilson. But there's no guarantee that you're going to make it back to the big game.
No, agreed. With that said, I don't know if there's any real pressure, but like, I just marvel at where Mahomes is at, man. Like so far to start his career, it's unbelievable, man. Like,
yeah,
it's really unbelievable. Like the future is it's his, and I mean, but again, the quarterbacks that are coming down the pipeline is still in a great place. I don't like how they're talking about Lamar Jackson right now because I'm watching some of these shows talking about. I swear to God, they talk about Lamar Jackson sometimes like this guy's like done, and it's like, isn't Lamar Jackson like 23, 24 years old? Like isn't he like the same age as Mahomes and he already has an MVP? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know, man. That kind of it always pisses me off because when they play well, they praise him. They say how great of a passer he is and a great runner. But then when he doesn't play well, it's like, you know, it's like he's the worst player in the league or something like that. It's terrible. Yeah, it's just so polarized. It's either you really like him or you really hate him. And it's like the people that like him will always big him up, but the people that hate him they just wait for any sniff of him not doing well for them to jump on his bandwagon and say that he's a shitty quarterback. I mean, It's been like that before he even got drafted. You know, what other quarterback? I mean, there's been a few black quarterbacks, don't get me wrong, that have been not really accused, but, you know, people have basically written them off before they even entered in the league.
Yeah.
You know, with him, they were saying he should be, what were they saying? He should be a running back or a wide receiver or something like that. Or, yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, this guy's like, I'm a quarterback. And they're one guy comes out and says that he should be a running back because he has fast feet. Like, seriously, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody wanted to convert Tebow to a tight end, right? And I mean, let's face it, like, is some of that racial? Yeah, possibly because he's dark skinned, he's got box braids, and he's got a heavy Southern accent. You know, it's not an image that you can quite promote, like, you know, like say like a Mahomes, unfortunately, right? Like that's
true.
Like he doesn't have that clean cut image, even though he's not. There's nothing controversial about Lamar Jackson at all. Right? He basically just does his work and goes home. Like he's not controversial in any way, shape, or form. Right?
No.
But sometimes you wonder if that plays a part too, because you're like all of a sudden it's like, does he have to improve on some things? Yeah, absolutely. But when they talk about the future is bright at quarterback, it's like you hear some guys not mention his name now, and it's like, yo, didn't he just win MVP last year? They did make the playoffs this year, right? What the hell's going on here? You know, but I say all this to say, like, yeah, he has competition. Like Mahomes has competition. It's not like he's. I think he's the best player in football. He's also a video game. He's like a cheat code, but at the same time, there are other competitors out there. You know.
Oh, for sure, absolutely, man. And I mean, other teams are getting better. You look at Josh Allen. You look at the Buffalo Bills. They're a perfect example of that. Yep. You look at the Chargers with Justin Herbert. You know, you look at young teams like the Washington Redskins. You know, they're about a quarterback away from being good.
Yeah, the Bengals. Once Burrow gets back, he's going to be tough.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of good teams out there. So it's not as if that team KC is going to dominate for like the next 10 years. Yeah. It might be possible, but one thing I can say is, you got Kelsey, you have Tyreek Hill. You got to pay these guys. And at some point, they're going to have to pay the piper because they got Mahomes $50 million a year. They have Kelsey $15 million a year. They have Hill, which is about $17 million a year. At some point, they're going to have to start cutting people because they can't afford all those salaries.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of the NFL, right? There's a salary cap, and people have to. Man. Yeah, it's a hard cap. There's a hard cap with penalties. And that kind of equalizes all the teams, because at some point in time, you know, those top tier players, if they want to make money, they're going to have to go to another team. So I mean, yeah, it's what makes the NFL so competitive.
I guess my final question to wrap up is, who you got?
Tampa Bay, man. Tampa
What?
Bay.
Really?
I am going absolutely
Oh, my
100%.
Oh, man.
I have seen this, Calvin. I feel like almost every 2 years we talk about this, whether it's Brady and the Patriots or Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like we sit down and we have this conversation. The team that they're going against is always the better team. They always have the better weapons. Whether it's New England versus Atlanta Falcons, who at the time, 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
They had the much better offense. Everybody was talking about Matt Ryan. He had an MVP-type season. What ended up happening? They met the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and they ended up losing. I feel like whenever you have Tom Brady, you have a chance. And I feel that their defense is good enough to slow down Mahomes. I can't wrong anybody for saying that KC's going to win because we know what type of weapons they have. But I just feel this almost feels like a Patriot-type game. Whereas, the defense is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then it's going to come down to the final minute or 2 minutes, and Brady's going to lead a drive down the field, and they're going to win by 1 or 2 points. I feel it. I absolutely feel it.
Man, I'm going to go with Kansas City. I just can't see anybody beating them if they're healthy, and I say that knowing that they lost 2 starters on their offensive line. They haven't been as explosive as they have been. I know they haven't been totally lights out this year, even though they were 14-2, and but like they've been like their games. Well, that Buffalo game, I mean, that was a wash, but a lot of the games that they played in this year, it's almost like they played down to their competition. But it's like there's no pressure in terms of like nervousness with them because they won one last year, so a lot of that is gone. Man, yeah. Like the thing that scares me though is with Brady, it's like stranger things have happened, and it's a home game, so it's like you just don't know particularly. But I just can't see Kansas City losing, man. I really can't. And I think we should make this a little interesting and make this a little fun and put a little Uber Eats bet or food delivery bet on this game. I'm thinking, whoever wins, the loser has to get them. I wouldn't even say their family. Let's not go that far. My family's kind of big, so let's just go with the individual. Let's go with the individual. So whatever meal you want, we got to get it delivered to the house.
Deal.
And it has to be done by let's put a deadline by the end of February.
Done. I'm down. Absolutely.
Okay.
I've learned a long time ago, and one of my football coaches told me this years ago. Offense wins games, defense wins championships.
Yep. True.
I feel it feels like that type of game. If it was a situation where Tampa did not have a good defense, I would be like, even like last year. Last year, even though I knew Patrick Mahomes and I knew KC had a fantastic chance, I still was like, okay, 49ers have a good defense.
Great defense. Get it right.
Great defense. But I knew that their offense just was not able to keep up.
Yeah,
I knew that their offense wouldn't be able to keep up. They wouldn't be able to keep up with Mahomes. And in the end, that's pretty much what ended up happening. This year, I find that nobody's talking about Tampa's offense. Everybody's talking about Tampa's defense, and everybody's talking about KC's offense. Tampa Bay has a fantastic offense. Brady threw for over 40 touchdowns this year.
You don't think people are talking about their offense?
I don't feel like they're talking about their offense. Really? I think everybody's so focused on KC and how explosive and good that their offense is.
Okay.
I feel like.
Oh, you mean in comparison to Kansas City? Okay, I got you.
Absolutely. I think when you compare the two teams, I feel like when you're comparing the two teams, whether it's any sportscasters or whatnot, first thing they always talk about Mahomes, how great he is. They talk about Travis Kelce. They talk about Tyreek Hill. They talk about all their wide receivers. All their wide receivers are 4-3 guys. I get it. They have a reason to talk about their offense because they're phenomenal. You throw in Le'Veon Bell. You throw in Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Is he playing?
And I don't know if he's playing. I think he is. I haven't seen anything that says that he hasn't.
He's not, yeah.
So I'll assume that he is.
Because he wasn't done for the year when he got that injury. I think he was done for, like, I think the prognosis was that if they make the Super Bowl, he should be able to play.
I think he is going to play. I do think that he's going to play.
Too.
I mean, yeah, so they have a phenomenal offense. But when you look at Tampa's offense, they're not slouchers, man. They're like literally a pack of all-stars. Yeah. You look at Godwin, who could be a number one anywhere. Yeah. You look like Evans. He is a number one for sure. He could be a number one anywhere too. And then when you look at their tight ends, you look at Gronk, you look at Cameron Brate. Both those guys, I mean, Gronk is probably past his prime, but he's still good enough to block. He's still good enough to surprise people and catch the ball. He still has phenomenal hands, right?
Yeah.
And then you put in Leonard Fournette in the backfield. I think that they could go throw for throw with them. I really, truly do. And I do feel like their defense is good enough to slow down Mahomes. I do. Like, I mean, I don't think Kansas City's defense, I feel, is probably going to be the deciding factor. Can they get pressure on Brady?
Yeah.
Can they slow down the run game? If they do that, then they'll probably end up winning the game. But knowing how good Brady's playing, I don't know.
Thing is, people sleep on Scotty Miller and I think it's what's his name is Tyler Johnson. Like those two wide receivers on their team too, they're pretty good, man.
Tyler Johnson can catch anything, man. You see that catch he made in the Packers game?
Yeah, he's good, man.
Phenomenal. And Scotty Miller, completely underrated.
Yeah.
Nobody rates this guy. And this guy literally has 4.3 speed. And I have yet to see him really, truly drop a pass. And then you throw in Antonio. I haven't even thrown in Antonio Brown.
I know. That's right. I know. We haven't even
spoken about Antonio Brown. He's gonna. I'm pretty sure he's gonna play.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm pretty sure he's playing. I don't think he's missing a Super Bowl. He's like shoot me up, sir.
Absolutely,
Doc.
Supposedly, if they go to the Super Bowl, he gets a $760,000 bonus.
There's no way he's not playing, Roger.
Oh no, he's not playing. He's definitely going to be there. Yeah. So I mean, they have some weapons. Tom Brady has some weapons.
Absolutely.
So I mean, yeah.
That's a fun bet. We're just making a fun bet, but it wouldn't shock me if they lost. I just if Kansas City lost, but all the reasons you said is all correct. I'm just like, man, just Mahomes. I just don't see them losing, man. Like I said, stranger things have happened. Do I see myself? We don't live that far from each other. Do I see myself traveling to your house in a couple of weeks, delivering your meal? I can see it. That's why I'm kind of putting aside $20 just in case.
Yep.
I'm taking out my wallet right now and just leaving it on the dresser just in case. I just have to go and just take your order like a damn waiter, the Uber Eats delivery service. That's the bet that we're making. That's how I feel like. I feel like I'm going to be traveling down the road to drop this off at your house.
We will see, man. We will see. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a phenomenal Super Bowl. I feel like this one is going to be. It's definitely going to be a Super Bowl for the ages. I can't see how it's not going to be a great Super Bowl. It could be one of those games where it's like just defense. Mm-hmm. It could be that type of situation. But I feel like just the two offenses are just so good at making adjustments and making those big plays. Like Brady this year has been phenomenal, probably better than almost anybody in terms of throwing down the field. He's had, I think, the most touchdowns over 30 yards in the whole year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's been great with the big plays, the big passes. Mahomes is Mahomes. I can't talk about this guy enough because he's been phenomenal. So I just feel all those things are like a combination for a fantastic Super Bowl.
Yeah, we'll see, man. So, we'll wrap this up for today, but as the annual tradition that me and you've had the last couple of years, we'll do the Super Bowl post-game pod immediately after the game. It won't be live. I should make it live, but we won't make it live this year. But it'll be out like first thing, like they'll be out the morning after.
Sure.
But we'll see We'll see what kind of meal is being ordered on Sunday night.
Deal.
Should be interesting, man. But thank you once again, brother, for hopping on the Ave. As always, it's been a pleasure. As always.
Yep. You know what? Thank you for having me on, guy. Honestly, this is always the highlight of my. This is the highlight of my week. These podcasts that we do together. So, yes, appreciate that. Yeah, always man. Great times.
Appreciate that. Yeah, man. So, boy, whew. Man, yeah. Let me put this 20 aside from right now. Let me take this off. For real. I'm just a little nervous. I am.
It's all good, my friend. It's all good.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Ave Podcast. Myself and Roger will be back on Monday for the post-game pod of the big game. So check your feeds Monday morning. It'll be up. I have a new episode of The Stoop coming on Family Day. For those that live in Ontario, they know. But for the rest of you, that's next Monday. That's going to be up on the South Shore Ave YouTube channel. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, subscribe. Now is the time. Go ahead and subscribe and like and subscribe. Whichever order you want to do it in, it's up to you. Just do it. But once again, new episode will be out on February the 15th. The next episode of the Ave Podcast will be out next Friday. Where for you hip-hop fans of black music in general, you're going to want to tune in for this one. That's all I got to say right now for the moment. I plan on blowing this one out. I really do. So stay tuned because I'm going to dive deep into this album, this classic album with my guests. This should be a lot of fun. Thank you for supporting this space. I appreciate every listener for taking the time out to listen to what I have to say. Listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe to all of the shows, and head over to southshoreave.com to listen and to check out the rest of the catalog. Once again, that's southshoreave.com. For Roger Callender, this is Cal C, and you've just tuned into the Ave Podcast on South Shore Ave Radio. On to the next podcast, folks. Peace. Be out.